those spirit worlds are sort of operating simultaneous to our world. In other words, you're in the spirit world already, but you're also in the physical world. So you don't actually go to the spirit world after death. You just continue on in there. In other words, there's two of you. There's one of you that exists in this other mirror world, and then there's the physical you that exists in this physical world. So if you're living in hell in this world, let's say a world of violence, vindictiveness, judgment, mistreatment of others, racism, sexism, blah, blah, blah-isms, then your mirror self will be in that hellish world as well.
So it's almost like a carbon copy of your real life, your physical life.
It's a doppelganger, yes.
Yeah, I don't want to say your real life because I'm not sure what one's real life is anymore, Stuart.
Well, no, I mean, in the end, your feelings are your real life. So what one says and does and so on isn't really quite as important as what one feels,
This other dimension you were in that had the houses and the other people.
That was just physical planes.
That was what time period might that have been?
It was like mid-afternoon.
I mean, year-wise, was it a carbon copy?
No, yeah, it was like at the same time.
Okay.
Like today, so to speak.
Can you travel, do you think, in the future and in the past through some of these portals or dimensions?
We don't know. We've certainly seen scenes from history, like epic battles and the Civil War and so on. But we don't know if we're looking at the Civil War or whether we're looking at some kind of record of the Civil War.
Right.
You see, like some information gathering system in the Akashic record of things that has the Civil War in it, Has
anyone that you know communicated with anyone or anything in any of these other dimensions?
Yes, we all have.
Now tell me, well, we're going to run out of time here, but...
there's a commercial break?
Yeah, there's a commercial break. In terms of time, you're with me for 3 hours tonight. You're not going anywhere. So.
Okay.
unless you slip into another dimension.
No, I'll try to stay in this one. Yes, we have, there's intelligence in there, and I'd be happy to talk to you about them.
Okay.
But there's also demonic intelligence in there that are trying to make you go in the wrong way.
Well, and maybe is that what possession might be?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Your website, Stuart Wilde with an E at the end, .com, is linked up on coasttocoastam.com, and you've written 15 books. And your most recent one is what, God's Gladiators?
God's Gladiators, yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's a book that really tries to sort of lay to rest some of the sort of misnomers of our spiritual evolution. And what it says is that we can't reach the light without incorporating our own darkness. And so there's a little story in the book about this scallywag called Stuart Wilde who goes off to find the devil. And it's just a way of saying that we all have to find the devil within us in order to reconcile the light and the dark. And then it talks about these invisible helpers that are here, that are literally moving into this earth plane to assist us at this time.
Well, you got to be careful, but you're right. I think all of us have a little devil within us. We'll be back in a moment with my guest, Stuart Wilde. I'm going to find out a little bit about the conversations with some of these other entities from other dimensions. And welcome back to Coast to Coast. I'm George Norrie with my guest tonight, Stuart Wilde. Stuart, let's talk about the communications with some of these people. What would you call them anyways? Entities, beings, people?
Yeah, entities, because they're not necessarily human, you know, and they get less and less human the further you go out, you know. So nearby they look sort of semi-human or actually human, but then further out they look less human.
Okay, now tell me about some of the conversations that you've had with them.
The conversations are all in the language of symbols. And so what they do is they begin by talking to you in symbols that you would understand. And they break it up in very small little pieces. But then also what happens is you get these downloads. And the downloads is when intense activity takes place over, let's say, a period of hours. And you fall into a trance. You're wide awake, but you can just watch it coming in. It's coming in so fast. Then what that actually is, you don't know, but it sort of unfolds over a period of weeks and months and years afterwards. But generally, the initial communication is just with symbols.
Okay, like what kind of a symbol? What would it look like?
Archetypal symbols that you may understand, like, for example, it can be words and it can be numbers and letters, but then often it's just, let's say, a small video that you would understand, So they may show you, George, let's say, a video of something that happened in your childhood that was very impacting. Hypothetically, I don't know, like you fell out of a tree or something, and your brother didn't help you,
Or in my case, pushed out.
Pushed out the tree. And the kids there didn't help you, and you went through this immense sense of abandonment and sorrow because you had to struggle home with no one to help you.
Right.
And they show you the actual video.
So how do they get it? I mean, how do they capture your life?
It's all there's some place in our universe, or between the molecules of our universe, everything is recorded.
Fascinating.
Everything. And then sometimes the videos play outside of you. So, for example, the first one I ever saw appeared on the wall of a house, a sitting room.
Like a movie was being shown on a wall.
It started flickering. And I looked at this wall. I was there with another person, and it was her house, and this flickering began on the wall, almost like an old black and white movie with the sepia colors and so forth, So you might be looking at, I don't know, Keystone Cops or something. And then the screen got more and more steady, exactly about the size of a largish TV screen, and then a video began to appear. At the beginning, the colors were very, very, very weak. And it was a video, a 45-minute video in a forest. And the colors in the forest weren't great. And then gradually, after maybe 3 to 5 minutes, the colors started to come in, and I could see lavender bushes, I could see fir trees, I could see action in this forest. And the video played on the wall for 45 minutes.
Now, where were you physically? Was your body still back here on this planet?
Yeah, no, I was just sitting on the sofa, and I'm looking at a blank wall across the room.
Okay,
let's say
all right.
9 to 10 feet away from me.
Okay, so physically you're still here.
I'm here.
And you're seeing this on a blank wall.
Yep, and there's another lady there, and she's seen the movie on the wall.
She saw the same thing?
2 movies.
2 different ones?
Yeah.
She saw her own life?
She saw a completely different movie.
Yeah.
But all the time we were watching this movie, we didn't realize we were watching 2 different movies.
That's weird.
Yeah, and I saw a movie of a cat fighting in a forest. And these beings would come into this forest, these very dark, sort of ominous-looking critters, blobs, spooky-looking animals, and the cat would go and they would fight with these animals. And then the animals would morph and lose and disappear. And then the camera went up a pine tree. And at the top of the pine tree, I heard the words, "Look at the stars." And I'd look up and you couldn't see the stars. And then the camera came down the pine tree, and then the cat would get into another fight. And that was the movie for 45 minutes. We went up the pine trees 39 times.
What the heck did that represent?
Well, it's like saying, the stars are like, let's say, the body of Christ, or the presence of God in our hearts is the stars, the magnificence of the universe above our heads, And these clouds were saying, look, you can't see God because we're surrounded by this darkness. We're surrounded by the ghouls. We're surrounded by these dark forces that are coming into the forest that don't allow a natural beauty, which is what humans really are. We're naturally very beautiful and very kind and warm and generous, and it's only the ghouls that shove us off into the direction of violence and nastiness and hatred and so forth. So it was really a movie about the war for redemption.
I used to see, I don't see them anymore, what I call shadow rodents. I mean, these are actual rodent-looking things that I would see scurrying across a highway, scurrying around the corner of a house, inside, along the walls. But they weren't real, Stuart.
They're blobs.
What were they?
They're little blobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had shape to
they're
it.
just demonic entities. They're everywhere.
They had shape to it. They had ears to it. They had long noses.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, they're blobs. They're demonic entities.
Why am I seeing them? I mean, what? And now I'm not seeing them. I haven't seen them for 3 months.
Well, it's just because you've got perception, George. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And there's not only the ones that are like whizzing around the house, so to speak, but they're also flying in the air.
It doesn't mean anything's happening to me or anything like that.
No. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. I mean, the ghouls, we live in the dimension of the ghouls. This is the world of the ghouls.
Is this the same for what we call shadow people?
Yes.
Everywhere. People see
Everywhere.
them with hats, and some without, some on
Yeah.
walls.
Yes, sometimes they see them walking through the walls.
Can they hurt you?
Yes.
How?
They can make you sick. You know, they can kind of close your life force down and make you sick. And the more you kind of go down those worlds of despair or demonic or sadomasochism or bizarre sexual behavior or hatred, the more they come around and use that life force, you know, so they can make you unwell.
Have you ever been petrified by any of this?
All the time. In my book, Stuart, I joke and I say I've been to the University of Terror and graduated.
What is the most frightening experience, Stuart, you've had?
It's a little bit difficult to explain, but I once broke out into another world that was a complete void, and it was dark in every direction. And I had no idea how to get out, and I have no idea how long I was in there.
Sheer panic, I bet.
Panic. Absolute panic, complete terror, the most utter extremes of loneliness. And it was infinitely black in every direction. And then I was hit by an electric shock on the sole of my foot. I was laying on a bed at the time in a hotel in France near Fréjus. And when the electric shock hit my foot, it knocked me off the bed, but it blinded me in one eye. And so I had a lot of trouble recovering from that momentary blindness that lasted for about 15 to 20 minutes.
My gosh. All right, let's talk about what this stuff is. First of all, this is natural, normal. That's it